On today's show, the NBA GM survey came out, and the NBA GMs have a lot of really good things to say about Luka. They hold him in high regard, but they wouldn't want to start a franchise with him. Why? We'll talk about that and more in today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Rusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
Everyone's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Amazing.
Your team every day.
Still can't eat milk.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show. Make it Locked On Mavs your first listen today. With the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Leave a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. You can start a big season on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me, as always, my co-host, media member, the GM Survey Sultan, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
What about that preseason game? Mavs basketball back, baby.
That's right. We back.
You been slightly breaking it down yesterday. Listen to that if y'all haven't listened to that yet.
We ended that show. I hit end record, and he goes, man, that was great. I'm so glad basketball is back. I don't know if I could do one more preseason or off-season episode.
I just want to say two things. One, the Lively spin finish was awesome. Dereck Lively.
Looked like Giannis.
Back up all of y'all who've been on my back about me overhyping Lively, saying that he's a star and all this stuff. And so calm down on that. Favorite play of the game, though, Naji Marshall, teardrop floater.
Oh, it was a nice one.
Transition.
It's a nice one. Felt
Guys,
good.
to have a wing guy who has that, it's not like Justin Jackson, but it's a
greatest floater in NBA history.
But he's got touch too. I'm really excited about Naji Marshall.
I am excited about Naji Marshall too. Yeah, Slightly and I talked about it yesterday, so go check out that episode if you missed it. A bunch of you are back in. Appreciate you guys for jumping back in on the show. Isaac and I will have the post game on Thursday, so come back and join us there. Today, we're going to talk about the NBA GM survey. 30 GMs or GM representatives answer 50 questions on the NBA. They do this every year where they go out and they ask questions, and the Mavs were all over it. They
can't vote for their own personnel, but yes, all 30 GMs
can't vote for your own player, and they ask all kinds of different questions. So we'll talk about where the Mavs show up. Jason Kidd is in this several times. Lively is in this. Klay Thompson is in it. Kyrie is in it a couple times. But I want to start here, Isaac Harris. Luka Doncic is all over this thing. Bunch of different questions. Who will win the MVP? Luka came in second with 30% of the vote. And basically 3% is like one GM that votes. So, I mean, 30% is obviously a third of them. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander came in number one at 40%. Which player forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments? Luka came in first at 33%. And who's the best point guard in the NBA? Luka came in first, 37%. Who's the best shooting guard in the NBA? Luka got a couple of votes for shooting guard. Who's the best small forward? Luka was second with 17% of the vote. He got a bunch of votes all over the place in this. And then you go to this one that didn't make any sense to me. If you were starting a franchise today, and you could sign any NBA player, who would it be? Number one, Victor Wembanyama. Understand that one. I think I'm fine with any GM that decided to go that. 77% went with Victor Wembanyama. I get that. Jokic was second with 10% of the vote. Okay, that's 3 GMs basically voting for Jokic. I think I understand that one too. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander also tied for second with 10% of the vote, and Luka 3%, which is basically one vote. So all these GMs have so many great things to say about Luka, best point guard in the NBA, forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments, all that. But only one GM wants to start a franchise with Luka. Why?
Yeah, this one's kind of wild to me. I didn't know you were going to toss it to me. Like, why did they drop
the bomb? Just drop the bomb. Hey, welcome back, Isaac Harris. This is what you get.
I thought you were going to just ask my take on it. But no. Why did GMs not put him higher? Maybe they're buying into the narrative of, the complaining, the ball hog, all this stuff. I mean, that's my only thing, because it's not age, right? Like Jokic is 29. So
29.
This is one of those things where it's kind of sad when you think about it. At some point, Luka's not going to be on this list because he's going to be a vet, right? And a lot of times it goes towards just for the age purpose alone. You look at somebody like Wemby. I mean, crap, at this point, Luka is what, 5 or 6 years older than Wemby.
Yeah.
So no matter if you think, Luka, which I do, is a better player than Wemby right now, you still pick Wemby because he's so young. You have him for longer and all that stuff because of the question.
Well, and if you're a GM, you get the younger guy. You keep your job a little bit longer than if you fail around Luka, who's now in his 7th season.
Yeah, so like Jokic is 29, so I was like, dang, that's pretty bold for Jokic to still be there at number 2. That you start your franchise with it, and he's 29. The SGA one is wild to me. That that you'd honestly pick, and I'm really high on SGA. I was really high on him over Trey early on, and then I felt like I was really stupid because Trey started off really good, and SGA went to Clippers and all this stuff. But it's like
about Trey Young.
Yeah, Trey wasn't on this list.
He did not.
But I just don't understand it because they're the same age. I think that was one of the things when I first saw it. I was like, wait, Shea's was the same draft class as Luka. And then I looked up their age again, and there's like a 6 or 7 month difference. And so yeah, I think it's pretty ridiculous considering the age of Luka, the size that Luka brings at the point guard position, all the stuff that Luka has accomplished. There's a lot of projecting with the OKC Thunder and SGA moving forward next year. And I think you might have tweeted this today. Maybe it might have been you. Sorry, that was like, they better win something.
That was me. I'll up to that.
It's not just GMs. It's media too. It's like everything. There's so many people saying best roster SGA MVP, got 40% of the votes for MVP stuff. The expectations are super high in OKC.
They are. And this one made no sense to me. If you're starting a franchise today and you 3 GMs took SGA and only 1 took Luka. And now you're splitting hairs between just a couple of people, and maybe they value one thing over the other. But I don't understand why more GMs wouldn't want to start with Luka Doncic. But hey, that it is what it is. Maybe it's some of those reasons you just mentioned. They don't want to deal with the text. They don't want to deal with the coming into camp out of shape. Some years they don't want to deal with having to change their offense around him. But with SGA, you don't get the rest of the OKC roster. Right. Yeah, look at what Luka has turned these rosters into, and look at what SGA has done with the rosters that he has had so far. He had one of the best constructed rosters, young rosters in the league, and had a great season last year, and then got beat by the Mavs and Luka, who didn't have as good of a roster around him.
Yeah, and I'll also say this: 3 GMs passed on Luka, so not all GMs are smart. So that's another thing. Like whether to get up in arms about it or.
We still got to have time.
Whether to get up in arms about it or not, but there's some GMs out there that placed a vote on this that just dumb. I do think the GM position has gotten smarter and less. Well, let's leave it at that. But it's like I think that's another thing. A part of it is. Okay, well, some of these GMs, a couple of them would pick SGA over Luka. Well, they could be running a team that sucked for a long time. And it's like, I really don't care about your opinion of who you take over Luka.
Yeah, that's true too. But I don't think we have a lot of dumb GMs anymore. I think that there are some that make some choices, but I don't know. I think the days of the wild trades, we haven't seen a lot of those lately, at least. But
I mean, James Jones doesn't even care about drafts, so.
I mean, I think his roster is all right now.
No, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, relationships matter.
I don't think they're going to win the title, but I think the Suns are okay there. I just didn't understand why more GMs didn't start a franchise with Luka, and this is Luka's chance. I talked about this a couple weeks ago. This is Luka's chance to prove that he's the best player in the NBA this season. He's got the best roster around him he's ever had. Jason Kidd has said that in training camp. He has, he's coming into camp. He's got this calf contusion, but he's coming into camp in really good shape because he's been on, practicing beforehand and all that. This is his chance. This is his opportunity to take a question like this and have it be completely different next year. If he wins the MVP, wins the title, does all that, that covers a multitude of sins and weaknesses and all that other kind of stuff. And I think this is the year that Luka can change some of these voters right here.
I'll be curious to see where Anthony Edwards shows up on this if he does next year. And I'm not sure how rookie voting happens on this if Cooper Flag is on this next year.
Yeah, I'm interested with that too. I mean, Wembanyama's all over this one with his, going into a second.
Yeah, Wemby's going to be there. He's insane.
Coming up, let's get into where else the Mavs are in this survey. There's all kinds of other things in here that Luka is in, so we'll go through some of those and just talk through some of the best ones and some of them that I was a little surprised. I was a little surprised the Mavs were in these, but I'm happy about it. Talk about that and more coming up.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavs is brought to you by BetterHelp. Therapy can help you to learn to accept all the parts of yourself. I literally went to therapy today. Isaac and I were doing a therapy session before we hit record, talking through some of the things in our lives. And therapy can help you. It's Halloween, Isaac. It can help you unmask a whole lot of things in your life. You like that one?
Yeah.
You like that one? Because masks should be for Halloween fun, not for our emotions. That's correct. You shouldn't have to mask your emotions. You should be able to live free and be the person that you are and work through some of those things that you need to. Therapy is the way to help you work through some of those things. I'm doing it myself. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Love that part because you don't know if you're going to vibe with somebody right away. Take off the mask with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA.
Hot man, the hot player.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. And go check out our subtext. We've got Locked On Mavs Insiders. If you want to get more in-depth, if you want to get the reports on stuff early, all that kind of stuff, subscribe. Go and click the link in the description or text the number and be part of that. Help support the show. And we'll do more extras. The more people we get on there, the more extras we'll do. Isaac will be doing some mailbags. I'll be doing some watchbacks, be watching quarters with you, and extra video content and stuff like that. So subscribe to become a Locked On Mavs Insider. All right, Isaac, we're talking through the NBA GM survey. So Luka came out on a bunch of these different ones. The NBA GM survey, we talked about MVP. He came number one in which player forces opposing coaches to make the most adjustments. What did you think about the positioning? Does the NBA know what position Luka plays? Because he got number one, 37% of the vote in point guard. He got 7% in shooting guard, which was fifth. He got two or three votes there. He came in tied for second in best small forward, 17%, tied with Durant and LeBron, which is kind of weird. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown sandwiched them, which I think was funny. And I just think it's interesting that they still kind of put him in all these different spots.
Yeah, I think it's kind of dumb, to be honest. I think it's on the NBA. I think it's on the NBA for this voting system. Just straight up tell them what position you're going to have the players.
Yeah, you got to pick one.
Yeah, just list these players off of here's your choices for point guard and put him as a point guard. He's a point guard. If you're voting Luka as a power forward right now, you're just I want to say you were born before 1980. I don't know what.
No, he's a stretch four, Isaac.
Yeah, come on. No, we're not.
He didn't get any votes for best power forward, by the way.
Yeah. I was just exaggerating.
Or center, snubbed.
Oh, snubbed. Also snubbed on defending some of these defending awards.
Kid said he's gonna have to guard this year.
He's a point guard. I don't understand any of this. With all NBA, All-Star. It's almost funny when you hear national podcasts still talk about this. We're in year 7 now. He's going to year 7. It's I don't even know what to do with Luka. And he's a point guard. It doesn't matter. He's 6'8". He's a point guard.
He is, and I think they should just put him there. I mean, SGA had a similar thing. He came in second with point guard, 30% of the vote. He came in third for shooting guard with 20% of the vote. So his got split too down there. Steph Curry, same kind of thing with point guard and shooting guard. So yeah, and then there's a bunch of guys that got split on this, which I think is interesting.
Okay, can I bring up a Mavericks thing?
Go for it.
This is actually the first point I put on there, even above the Luka, the start of franchise one for my notes on it. It feels like, and I'm probably combining this with some of the offseason narrative leading into this survey too, but it feels like even in this survey that people are viewing the Mavericks finals run last year as flukish.
Yes.
And I just don't understand because you have a conference finals run that a lot of people are fluke. look at the Timberwolves and Hawks. Like
PJ Washington turned into Ray Allen.
It's like some people, there's teams that can pull off these flukish runs. It's like, I can kind of hear you on that. Okay. Now they went to a finals with, I get it, the first one with Kyrie, but still, it's like, it still feels like people are still viewing it as a fluke. And you kind of saw it with the survey too, because look at one of the first things on the survey was like, hey, the finishing of the West next year.
Yes.
OKC, like the chart that they had, it was funny because it was like OKC, Minnesota, Denver, Dallas at 4th. It's like, what are you doing? I just don't understand. I just don't understand going into it right now of saying Minnesota. And this was post cat trade. All right.
Right.
The cat move was on here later on. You have Minnesota at 2nd. Dallas just went to the finals.
40% of GM said Minnesota at 2nd. 40% said them at 3rd. For Dallas, 7% 1st, 23% 2nd, 23% 3rd, 20% 4th. Like really split.
Yeah, and so like you got that, and it's like finishing at 4th, the finals team finishing at 4th, and it's like do your plus, your plus minuses on roster additions and subtractions. It's like, okay, Tim Hardaway wasn't playing, Josh Green sporadic minutes, Derrick Jones Jr. I get it, a starter, but you got Naji Marshall, you got Klay Thompson, you got some of these other Quentin Grimes. Like I just saw this KOC clip of him talking about Klay Thompson. Yeah. And it was like, dude, I'm not sure if they even got better. This isn't the same Klay. I'm like, dude, I just did a whole podcast on this. You're not paying Klay $35 million to be pre-injury Klay. You're paying Klay $15 million to be post-injury Klay. $15 million. Like, what are we talking about? And then you have Naji, like you have all these. I just don't understand the people pushing back that Dallas got worse, or we're not viewing Dallas as like a finals type of team coming out of the West. Doesn't make any sense. And I think the survey kind of showed that.
Yeah. You look at where Dallas lands, and
Sorry, I got a little too animated about that.
No, I'm you know what? I'm just happy Fire Isaac is back.
Put some respect on their name.
Klay Thompson did get 10% of the vote on what was the most underrated player acquisition. So there are at least 3 GMs out there that think his acquisition was the most underrated.
I mean, it wasn't even like considered for one of the best overall moves of the offseason.
Yeah.
It didn't get any votes for the one player acquisition will make the biggest impact.
I mean, the biggest impact, a team signed Paul George outright. I mean,
yeah, and is it possible for Caruso to be overrated and underrated at the same time?
Yeah, Caruso got 23% of what was the most underrated player acquisition, but then he also got what did he get? Biggest impact. He got 7% of the vote. He got a bunch of votes for best perimeter defender. He got 20% of the vote. Came in 2nd to Drew Holiday.
I like him.
He got a vote for best defensive player in the NBA. Alex Caruso.
Listen, I've liked him. I've wanted him on the Mavs for years. But I'm with Slightly on this. Slightly and I agree with this. There's going to be some revisionist stuff with that Bulls Thunder trade that are going to haunt some like old takes exposed, because Giddey gave them some playmaking and like ran their offense and stuff to give SGA a break. Like Caruso's not the playmaker that Giddey is. And I think Giddey might do pretty decent in Chicago. So like, I get all the offseason stuff. It's fun to dunk on him. I'll make jokes all the time about it, but he's still like a good young player in the league. And for them just to swap him out and people just be like, dude, Caruso. I mean, he is, the next coming of Gary Payton this year. I think it's a tough spot. I think it's like crossed over into he was underrated. It's crossed over to the overrated a little bit now.
Have you heard that Rockets podcast when the Lakers beat the Rockets in the playoffs?
Was it Jackson?
No, it was not Jackson Gatlin. But
was it that Ben dude?
This guy goes, it was not Ben DuBose. This guy just goes off. He goes, Alex Caruso, unacceptable. He just like starts yelling about how Alex Caruso was beating them. And every time I was reading it made me think about that. Just yell at Alex Caruso.
I'm glad I brought those memories back for you.
That's great. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Klay Thompson and the Mavericks, are they being underrated? Luka being underrated to start a franchise with. There's all kinds of things. Keep sleeping on the Mavs. Like Jason Gallagher says on Twitter, keep sleeping on the Mavs. You want this. You don't want all the pressure. Guess where the pressure is? It's on OKC. It's on them because they got 80% of the vote to finish number 1 in the NBA. They got 13% of the vote to who's going to win the NBA title. Mavs did get 1 vote there. So there's at least one GM out there that really believes in the Mavericks. So
I will say this. you're not going to go back and check it and fact check it, but it feels like this is the highest.
You don't want me to fact check? That's not did we agree to that before the starting the podcast?
Dude, I can make up stories to help me. I can create stories to help get a point out there. Is this the highest percentage a team has gotten to repeat? And two, I think it shows another way of like just how good Boston was last year.
Yeah.
That they're 83% by GMs
to win the finals.
To repeat again, like to win the finals. Like it's hard to repeat and it's hard to get that high of a percentage.
They also got 97% of the vote to be number one in the East. So only 3%. And that was one GM who thinks Cleveland is going to get there, which I think is actually kind of funny. But maybe Evan Mobley takes a leap and they do it. But
who's the GM that said no to Boston?
I'm going to give you one guess who I think it is.
Uh-oh. Give it to me.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
You think Nico gets into the voting booth and he gets the pen and he starts to mark his stuff.
Cleveland.
He's like, Cleveland.
I mean, I have Cleveland finishing second in the East, so
or it's Pelinka, and he's like, he does it for LeBron, and he's like, Cleveland, this is for you. He just whispers it to himself in the voting booth and hits the Cleveland one. Coming up, let's get into where else the Mavs showed up. Jason Kidd showed up in this, and I want to talk about that one because I thought that was interesting and pretty good for the Mavericks. So we'll talk about that and more. We'll talk about AJ Lawson as well. He got waived today. What does that mean for the Mavericks? Talk about that and more coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Today's episode of Locked On Mavericks is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook is all kinds of props and odds and things that you can use to get in on the action. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same place that you place your bets. Go check out and see what they have available. If you, like me, think that Luka is going to win MVP, and so you want to put him there. You disagree with 40% of GMs that say that SGA is going to win and not Luka. You can go put some money down on FanDuel. He's the favorite right now, plus 380. SGA is plus 500 and Jokic is plus 400. So SGA is not even first or second in MVP on FanDuel. So go check out that, see what they have available. And when you place your first $5 bet, you can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's FanDuel.com. Check out and visit FanDuel right now. See what's available to you.
Touche.
Thanks everybody for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. All right, Isaac. Real quick, I want to talk about AJ Lawson. He got waived. The Dallas Mavericks made a roster move today. And AJ Lawson, we knew he was going to probably have to get waived at some point because the Mavs were bringing back Markieff Morris. Markieff Morris was sending all kinds of tweets and signals about he was coming back. He expected to come back. He went on the Mavs players off-season trip to Southern California when he wasn't even signed on the team. Then he did sign with the team in like this non-guaranteed deal. And the Mavs just didn't have enough guaranteed spots for both AJ Lawson and Markieff Morris to keep everybody else that they have right now. And so AJ Lawson getting waived, Jason Kidd talked about it at practice today, made it seem like he's really gone, but I think they could also bring him back into that last two-way spot and convert his contract to that. I think he has 1 year left of two-way eligibility there. And so they could do that. But I also think that Jason Gortman, like we just saw Jay's play really well in that first preseason game. He's been doing pretty good. And maybe he's going to fill that last two-way spot. And so maybe the Mavericks were like, hey, I think we've seen enough. We want AJ to go get another opportunity somewhere else. And then they waived him today.
419. Do you know the significance of 419?
Is that how many towels he handed to Luka and Kyrie during the playoff run last year?
No, that is how many minutes that AJ Lawson has gotten in 4 years from the Mavericks. And that means he just didn't get his chance.
You want to give him another chance?
I think he needs a chance. You only play 419 minutes with the Mavericks. Then in 4 years, and he only appeared, the first year, 15 games. He only appeared in one game in year 2 and 14 games in year 3. That looks like somebody who hasn't gotten a chance.
Do you want to give him another chance?
Give him a chance. Come on.
You want to see more?
So, yeah, this is
Go back and listen to our episode from 2 days ago.
This is a this is a move for Markieff Morris. You know, he's gonna get that last roster spot and everything. I thought it was funny too. Markieff at media day was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get my brother here too."
We're like, "Where's that roster spot coming from?"
I know, but yeah, I'm curious to see what they. I mean, of course, I mean anybody who's been here at the end of a roster for 4 years, basically, you know, they like him. So, or 3 years, whatever, because he had a little stint there with Minnesota. But you know, you like him, and he's a fun athletic wing. But yeah, I don't know if he's like NBA rotational minutes type of wing. So
to me, he just hasn't. And I said this to the Locked On Mavs insiders. I texted him today and said he just really hasn't taken that next step forward in any of the skills the Mavs really need him to. He hasn't really stood out as a 3-point shooter, as a defender. He's a great athlete. I mean, one of my favorite parts of Fan Jam is seeing the dunks they throw down in warmups. And AJ Lawson was throwing some off the backboard, off the bounce. I mean, just crazy bounce. He's an incredible athlete. But there's just never that next skill that really got him, like earned him some playing time. So that's where we are with that. For those that watched the preseason game, Klay and Kyrie didn't play in that, but they did participate in practice today on Tuesday. So I think that was significant. So if you were worried about them, they're back at practice. It literally was just rest. There's nothing else there with that. And so, yeah, that's the Mavs news and notes today. Let's get back into this survey. Let's just go back and forth and we'll just start bringing up different things that either surprised you or you liked or whatever. Which head coach is the best manager, motivator of people? Eric Spoelstra, 37% of the vote. Okay, cool. I'm cool with that. Steve Kerr
ran away with these.
Steve Kerr, 17%. Joe Mazzulla, Greg Popovich, and Doc Rivers, all 10%. Really weird group, but also like makes sense. Jason Kidd, 7%. That means at least 2 GMs think that Jason Kidd is the best motivator and manager of people, and it couldn't be Nico Harrison because he can't vote for his own player. And I think that that's just great because you know about Jason Kidd.
You gotta ask them. I'm just the coach.
I mean, this was Kidd's biggest calling card, right? It was his relationships. It was how much players view him around the league. This is when Dallas made that shift. You know, you make the shift, which there's a lot of shifts happening right now with the Mavericks this past 12 months.
Yeah, right.
But anyway,
today.
So yeah. So, but there's, you look at the shift from Rick Carlisle to Donnie Nelson to Nico Harrison and Jason Kidd. There's a lot of differences there, but the biggest thing is relationships. The relationships Nico has around the league, the relationships Jason Kidd has around the league, the amount of players that you talk to in the locker rooms, off camera, on record, off record, that's like, dude, like we're gonna play with Jason Kidd. Like Jason
LeBron
Kidd
wanted to play with Jason Kidd, wanted to play for Jason Kidd before they hired.
So as much as
Vogel.
people on a podcast mic want to criticize the the plays and play calling, as much as people want to do walk-in talks and call for his job,
who would do that?
When it comes for all that stuff, all those things don't matter to a front office right now. They care about relationships and getting players like Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson to your city, and that's right. And Jason Kidd helped make that happen. So and Nico Harrison did too. So that one, now I think it's also telling that Jason Kidd shows up nowhere else on all the coaches stuff.
Yeah,
when it comes to like best coach or adjustments and all this stuff. Because relationships is his calling card, right? Like that's the biggest thing with Jason Kidd. Not saying he's not a good coach or anything like that, but relationships. Now, Sean Sweeney, one of my notes.
There you go.
One of the best assistants in the NBA. And you see that he's going to be a head coach one day in the league. And he is highly respected, highly regarded, one of the best defensive minds in the league. And there's so many people who love him and just a good overall dude. And I'm really happy that he didn't take another job somewhere else.
I am too. And I think he is too at this point. Which player is most likely to have a breakout season? Dereck Lively got a vote in that one. A bunch of players got votes. I mean, how many? It was 13, 14, 15. Yeah. Like 15 players got votes in this. Who's going to have a breakout season? But Lively got a vote. Love that.
Yeah, I also wrote down how soon until we start seeing Lively get some votes with best defender. I think we're gonna see that, and you saw a little glimpse of that in that preseason game the other night, him guarding out of the perimeter. I think we're gonna see better defense from Lively. This is an area of improvement that's kind of underrated that we haven't talked about a lot. I think we're going to see him be able to switch on smaller guards and better perimeter defense from Lively this year. And it's just going to continue to, we know he can block shots, protect the paint, but him being able to do that at his size, I think he's going to start getting votes.
That's what sets him apart, and that's what sets him apart from Gafford, even on the map, on like his own team, which is why we're so high on Lively this year. But yeah, Victor Wembanyama's running away with a lot of these. He got best defensive player, 40% of the vote, and the next highest was Bam, Rudy, and Holiday got 10%. So
and I mean he should. Like Wemby's gonna win consecutive. I mean, he's gonna probably break the record for defensive player of the years, and it's gonna be one of those conversations like, oh no, is he gonna get it again? It's like, yeah, because he's gonna break the block record.
You can't shoot over him. Matt, which team will have the most efficient offense? Celtics 53%, Pacers 20%, Thunder 13%, Mavs 7%. 2 GMs think the Mavs are gonna have the best offense. You got in their ear.
They should be higher, so they'll eat their words on that one.
Then the Thunder, the Pacers, and the Celtics.
Shout out, Celtics is the one that I'm curious about. Shout out to the one of most fun team to watch in the Pacers. Got that.
Yeah, the Mavs got one vote on that, which I thought was interesting. Usually the Mavs are not like a team that people think is fun to watch, but Pacers 37% of that one, Thunder 27%, Nuggets and Warriors 10%. Mavs got a vote there.
I will say my last nugget I will throw out here is can we put to bed the Jokic Embiid debate? Because it's over for GMs, and
it's done.
87 to 10%. Jokic as the best center.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny. Some people are just still trying to make that debate, and it's been done for a while, and it's funny to see GMs feel the exact same way.
Steph Curry ran away with best pure shooter, 87%.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody else even got more than one vote. Best moving without the ball, Steph Curry, 83%. Nobody else got more than one vote. Klay, though, did get a vote for best pure shooter, best moving without the ball. And the moving without the ball thing is something that I think we've kind of underrated here, and I'm interested to see how the Mavs implement that, because Klay is very good at that.
Very, very good at that. Oh, yes. We haven't had that in a very long time, maybe since Doug McDermott.
The last one that I wanted to talk about is, which player would you want taking a shot with the game on the line? Curry, 40%. Durant, 23%. Luka, 10%. 3 GMs voted for him. Jokic and Lillard both got 7%. And then Kyrie got a vote.
Let's go.
2 different Mavs got a vote on here. Anybody else get 2? Jamal Murray got a vote. Jokic got a couple.
I feel like that list is pretty true. Like, I understand picking Steph.
I'm with it. I was just happy that Kyrie got one. And you know who gave Kyrie the vote?
Tim Connolly.
Yeah, it had to be the GM of the Nuggets after that.
It's Calvin Booth. He submitted that. He's like, I watched that lefty buzzer beater. Screw that. I'm voting for Kyrie.
Right. Vote for Kyrie. So there you go. Let us know in the comment section, why do you think the GMs don't want to start a franchise with Luka and would rather somebody else? Come back tomorrow. We'll have more. Slightly and I will be back. And then Isaac and I will have the post-game show on Thursday playing the Jazz, the dreaded Jazz, and David Locke's team. We'll talk about that and more tomorrow. Guys, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Subscribe, follow everywhere. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.